Hello, my name is Peter Milton and I am the developer of Time Chainage. This video is part of a series where I show you the various options for annotating your chart. What I mean by annotation is adding text to the chart. This includes activity descriptions, milestones, data date and other additional text items. In this video we look at how to show the data date on your chart and what formatting options are available for it. Let's get started. I have a project open in Time Chainage which we can use for this demonstration. But first of all, what is a data date? In simple terms, the data date is the dividing line between history and the future. It is the date that your schedule considers to be now. Everything before the data date has occurred and should be known. Everything after the data date is your plan and is less certain. If you are going to include a Gantt chart or a Time Chainage chart in your progress reporting, the data date will be the date you report progress up to. Typically, bar chart programs such as Primavera P6 and Microsoft Project will use the data date in the calculations when scheduling, although the term used may be different. In Time Chainage, the data date is not used for scheduling and is purely a visual element for the chart. There are several formatting options for the data date, and we find them in the data date dialog. To open this dialog, we go to the Annotate menu and select Data Date. All we need to do to show the data date is to select the date we want from the calendar selection box and make sure that the Show Data Date line checkbox is ticked. However, there are more options that we can look at. Let's first set the date itself. We can type directly into the date box if we wish, or else click on the little calendar to open the calendar view. Let's assume for this demonstration that the data date we want is Monday the 24th of March 2025. So we navigate to March and select the 24th. Whichever day you select, be aware that the data date is not a full day, but an event, and is at the start of the day. So the actual working day of the 24th will be after the data date. This will only be significant if you are showing the individual days on your chart. I will demonstrate how this looks at the end of the video. Next, we make sure that the Show Data Date line tick box is checked. Note that all of these settings form part of any layouts that you may have. So you can, for example, have one layout showing the data date and another layout where it is not shown. If you are not sure what I mean by the term layout, then watch the video on layouts where I explain what they are and how to use them. The data date itself consists of a horizontal line across the chart and some text. For the line, we can format the width and colour. The default values are 4 pixels wide and colour red. I usually keep the default values, but for this demonstration we will change them. For the width I will type in 10. To change the colour, we just click on the colour box and the colour dialog will open. Let's choose maroon and then click the OK button. In the text section we can see there are two parts to the text. The first part is data date equals and the second part is the actual date of the 24th of March. There are also checkboxes, so you can show either one or both parts of the text. We can modify the first part to say something different. Maybe your project uses a different term for data date. Let's call this one reporting date. We can't modify the date part, but we can hide it if we wish to by unticking the checkbox. We want to see it, so we will leave it checked. Next, we can choose the position of the text on the line. The text position is the percentage of the chart width away from the left-hand side. The default value is 1%, i.e. very close to the left-hand side of the chart. We want to have the text in a clear space, but we'll leave it at the default position until we see what it looks like. Finally, we can modify the font. Let's click on the font button to open the font dialog. All I will do here is change the font size to 12 and set the colour to maroon to match the line. Then we click OK and OK it again. Now we can see the data date line on the chart. Two things we notice straight away. One is that the text is hard to read as it goes across the sync launch shaft activity. And secondly, the line doesn't look as though it is 10 pixels wide. Let's deal with the line width first. We can limit the width of the line as displayed on the monitor, and by default it is set to 2 pixels. I will turn off this restriction to show you why we have it. This option is in the chart setup dialog. So from the format menu, we select chart setup, and then we open the format tab. In the constraint on line width section in the bottom right, we can turn off the constraint or enter a different width value. Let's turn off the constraint and exit the dialog. All of the chart line widths have been set with printing in mind. So as you can see, having the line widths that work well for printing do not necessarily work well for the monitor. I will set the constraint back to 2 pixels. To deal with the text, we will move it over a bit to the right hand side of the shaft activity. So we will go back to the data date dialog via the annotate menu and select data date. Let's put in a position of 15% and see what that looks like. We exit the dialog, and that looks much better. Now let's check how the data date looks in the print preview. From the file menu, select print preview. Well, that's fine, so let's return to the main form. I said earlier that I would demonstrate that the data date line is shown at the start of the day. Currently, the date axes and grids are set to months. We will change them to days by going to the format menu and selecting chart setup. In the axis tab, we select date for the left time axis. In the grids tab, we select week for the major time grid and day for the minor time grid. We click OK to return to the chart. We will now zoom in using the mouse with the left button down to drag a suitable rectangle. Then release the mouse button. As you can see, the data date line is at the start of the 24th of March, or if you prefer, at the end of the 23rd. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found this video helpful. Time Chainage, adding an extra dimension to your schedules.